Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the AusCannaPodcast. I'm your host, Christina McMullen, and today I'm excited to chat with Jessica Peros of the Green Room Hydro. For the past 7 years, Jessica and her husband, James, have been running one of the East Coast's largest and most respected hydroponic retailers. With deep roots in the Aussie legacy community, Jessica is a fierce advocate for quality medicine and access for all. Get ready for an insightful conversation with somebody who's truly at the forefront of the cannabis movement in Australia. Before we dive in, a little reminder. If you have a question for the rapid fire segment, please email it to me. If I use your question on air, you'll get a shout out and an AusCanna sticker pack. Now, let's get started with some rapid fire questions to get to know Jessica better. You're ready? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Depending on which time of the AM or PM it is, but coffee in the morning, tea in the evening.
Favorite activity to relax?
Either bushwalking or Pilates.
Would you rather be a mermaid or a unicorn?
Mermaid. Seeing myself frolicking in the ocean.
Love it. Love it. One thing you can't live without.
Ooh. My cannabis, CBD and THC.
One word to describe the Aussie legacy community.
Evolving.
Oh, I like that one. Where's your favorite place in Australia?
Good question. I would say Olney National Park, which is close to us here in the Central Coast
Of New South Wales, correct?
of New South Wales. Yep.
Good deal. What's your motto or favorite quote?
If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Excellent. That is excellent. Best Aussie pub grub.
Oh, chicken palmy for
Yes.
sure. Chicken palmy.
100%. Yes.
I have tested, I think, every palmy on the East Coast of the pub that I've been to. So
it's weird. I don't know if it's like a quirk for me, but I don't even look at menus anymore when I'm in a pub and I'm like, oh no, it's chicken parmy. That's what it is.
It's how you rate it.
Yeah, it's just what you order. And you're right. If it's a subpar parmy, it's like the whole experience is subpar.
For sure. I don't want to try anything else in the menu if you can't nail the chicken palmy.
It's true. It's true. It is. What inspires you most?
Probably being a mother and having the responsibility of raising the next generation. For me, it's young women. I've got 2 little girls, so that's very inspirational to me.
I bet you have your hands full with 2 little girls.
I certainly do.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Best advice you've ever received?
If it feels authentic and right, go for it. We can fail, we may succeed, but if we don't have a go, we don't know.
Oh, I love that. That is excellent advice. Most random item you've ever used to smoke cannabis?
It's coming straight to my head. Probably a coconut.
Oh.
Yeah, that was interesting. A coconut, a makeshift water pipe coconut.
I love it. Like a fresh coconut. Did somebody please tell me there's a story? Did somebody climb a tree? Was it? Tell me more.
Is definitely a story that links back to early beach days where we used to climb the coconut trees in the main street. And, we lived with people that would make their own coconut cream and milk. And you have a few discarded coconut shells and husks around. So get creative.
Oh my God, I love that so
Yeah,
much. I
that was
love
pretty
that
cool. I
so
haven't yet
much.
done a coconut bong since then. So that was the one and only time.
No, that's like peak though. You wouldn't be able, like
Mm,
years later, you wouldn't be able to top it. There's no way.
for sure.
Could you, like, looking back,
Mm,
do you remember it being flavorful? Like, did the coconut really? Because I've used an apple and I'm like, no, there's really no, like, it's kind of
yeah.
gimmicky, right? But to me, a coconut, there's like a bigger chamber, if you will, to hold the
Yes.
smoke. Like, was there any flavor change? I'm dying to know.
I think for us, and we had the coconut water in the coconut, of course. So I'm not sure if that changed the flavor profile, but yeah, it definitely was sweeter. I just remember thinking, this is crazy. We've got all these beautiful glassware in front of us. Why are we doing this? But that same gentleman also loves like a bamboo um, style
Okay.
bong. They're made from like bamboo shoots. So that was always interesting as well. But yeah, don't know if it was actually that good a quality flour now. I think back, Early Beach really struggles to get some good quality up there. So I'm here for them getting on the medical cannabis to get some more consistent flour to medicate themselves with, because it is a lot of outdoor that's been brought up from down south, or indoor is few and far between. So times have
Um,
changed since then.
all right,
Mm.
very last rapid fire question.
Okay.
Like I said, little tangent, but we're bringing it back. Most rewarding thing about working with your husband?
Oh, wow. That's such a beautiful question. There's certainly challenges to it. But the most rewarding thing, I think, for us is we have very similar passion and drive. So to work alongside someone that shares the same end goal as you, has, maybe can pick it up when I'm feeling down and vice versa. We keep it going. We have a family friendly and pet friendly store. So we really love that we've built an environment together that suits us and our family. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
he's
it's a
funny. He's a funny one. So he
yeah,
like makes me laugh all the time.
good deal. I love it
Yeah.
that you've got the work-life balance, but it's still, it's crept into
It
work, but
took a minute.
it's a fun
Mm.
place. But you built what you love, and now it's almost like you don't even go to work.
Yeah, we're very blessed. We certainly, running your own business has its challenges. COVID was actually a fantastic time for us. And on the flip side, this year's been really difficult. I think it's difficult for everyone across the board. But, when we've got each other to kind of lean on, and yeah, like I said, just having fun, keep it pushing, we support each other when we need to, and when we're having a good day together, there's nothing more elating than just like being on cloud nine with your husband, smashing goals and getting to where we want to be. So yeah, it's rewarding.
That's awesome. I love it. So
Mm,
before we dive into things, for those people who don't know anything about you, Jessica, do you mind just giving a brief introduction of yourself?
for sure. Well, I guess I full time, I run with my husband the Green Room Hydro. So we do hydroponic and organic gardening supplies for licensed cultivators to hobby farmers. And we also are involved in community groups. We work with some local high schools for their agricultural sector. We do a bit of consulting for cultivators that are wishing to get into the space. So whether that's their state hemp license or a federal cannabis license. Sometimes we are the first point of call to grasp their head around all the things that they may need to delve into before they start reaching out to people about licensing. And it's been really beautiful to assist those people over the years moving over into the licensed cultivating scene. But then also a few days a week, I personally contract to a local clinic that specializes in cannabinoid medicine, and love that I get to be in the trenches on the help desk, heading patient care, chatting with our patients and doctors, and working with our pharmacists and different cannabis companies as well, to make sure that we're getting the best outcomes for our patients in clinic. So I sit on both sides of the fence a little bit, in a nutshell.
I was gonna say, I love the fact that you do a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Let's start with how because your legacy. So
yeah.
can you kind of share with like how your journey in like the cannabis industry and then how like the green room hydro kind of came to be, kind of that crossroads?
Yeah, certainly. So plant medicine has always been an integral part of my life. From kind of teenager, dabbling in it. We live in a really coastal, surfy community, so kind of being down on the beach and passing around a joint or whatnot was never too far and few between. So I guess diving into that, realizing that it was a better option than alcohol as well, and moving up to Early Beach, doing a bit of travel, landing in Early Beach, I started actually working at the Happy Herb shop that was up there. And being able to immerse yourself fully in plant therapy, plant medicine, the advantages, disadvantages, all the beautiful teas, combinations you can make. It was just so eye opening at such a young age. Now, I do come from a background where I have two ex police officer parents. So,
Ooh.
very juxtaposed as far as, what I was kind of brought up being told and known about to what then I actually got to experience as a young adult into an adult myself. So, knowing that this plant was so beneficial for my life and being able to be surrounded by it catapulted me into when I moved back from Early, I was going to go to Nepal and do a bit of a Silk Road trip to a degree and work in the community and head over to India. Unfortunately, Nepal had a huge earthquake at the time I was meant to fly out, and I chose not to go. But as they say, fork in the road, who knows what's on the other side. And I re met my beautiful now husband, who was working in the hydroponic stores in the New South Wales region from kind of the Hunter area and the Central Coast. And early days, he was also assisting people with their R&D and pre-licensing and hobby growers. And I just thought how fantastic, obviously, having my own experiences with the plant over the years, but never cultivating myself. It was always something, you reach out to your friendly local dealer and, and try and get something that's good quality. And just then flipping the switch and seeing, wow, there's like a lot of people that really just do this for themselves or their loved ones or people that are sick. And in our community here in New South Wales, in the Central Coast region, look, I do believe we do have a strong kind of cannabis legacy community. We're not too far from Nimbin. They're a different kettle of fish, of course, but it trickles on. Like-minded people and communities tend to find each other. So I always knew that I was going to be surrounded by the plant. I just wasn't sure how. I had a kind of knowledge building base happening at a young age and just really threw myself into, all right, I'm going to like learn about this. I'm going to grow this. I'm going to immerse myself in this. And, when you're young and you don't have kids and, and you're working part-time somewhere else, you kind of can do that. And I find that's the beauty of really slowing down and being able to do something that really for me was a bit of a calling. It's a bit of a passion calling. And so fast forward, James working in his stores. And to be fair, like those stores may not have had the support for the customers on the floor. As far as coming from management, as we know, it all trickles down from the top. And it's really frustrating for my husband to not be able to facilitate the growers in the way that they needed or the products or as timely. And we thought, hey, why don't we not buy a house and we'll start our own business? And
Sure, why
yeah,
not, right? Yeah, sounds like a great idea. Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. Our family and friends supported us. They know our intentions and what we want for the Australian community. So they were all on board, and that's including the ex-police officer parents.
I was just
Um,
about to ask, how did your parents feel about it? Yeah.
yeah, they're fantastic. They're so supportive. I guess for them, they have seen the devastation, on the streets, in families that are the hard drugs and alcohol, domestic violence, mental health. And on the flip side of that, for the most part, mum's like, there's just general people every day trying to get relief, maybe growing their own couple of plants. Like, it's a completely different ball game to criminal syndicates and money laundering and funding, all the horrible kind of facets that come with a deep criminal organization. So yeah, they were really supportive. My husband's a beautiful, humble, down to earth, hands in the dirt type of man. So they definitely supported us. And then I guess from there, we just started bootstrapping, doing it ourselves. We started with really small, with a few customers that followed him. And then just the snowball effect. I guess it just continued to build on. COVID so we're 7 years this September, right? So we've got a few years under the belt. But the lead up to COVID was absolutely insane. We tripled, quadrupled almost in our sales, the amount of people we saw. And it just really showed to us, I guess when you're stuck at home, you're being given money to buy things with. And I genuinely think the hobby of COVID was growing your own. And whether that was a medicinal property plant or whether that was, monsteras, we deal with a lot of rare indoor plant growers as well. It was just amazing to see and, building that community of green thumbs. It was amazing.
Oh yeah, I 100% COVID. I got bit by, I mean, I've always thought I had a green thumb. I'm gonna say thought
Yeah,
I had a
I still
green
kill
thumb.
things all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, COVID, I think the best thing about COVID, absolutely, at least for me, I was non-essential. I was hospitality at the time, so I was at
Yeah.
home. My kid was devastated. I mean, he was, what
Mm.
grade was he? Grade 5. He was devastated that I was not essential because he wanted to go to school. So it was just the two of us at home. He was
God love
like,
him.
"Oh God, mom, why can't you have a real job?" And I'm like, "Thanks, appreciate it. Love you, kid." Um,
Yeah.
so one of the things that I was like, okay, well, we need something to kill time and be productive and
Yeah.
whatnot. And so yeah, we grew all sorts of stuff. That's when I got bit by the, no, check me out. I can grow roses. Like I can grow really
Oh,
good roses.
beautiful.
And then we
Yep.
just started growing all sorts of food. And then it became like it was like our thing to do. We went out to the garden and we checked it.
Yep.
We're like, what can we eat and what this and what that? And yeah, I think, yeah, one of the best things about COVID was that opportunity to
Mm.
be home and embrace growing just anything, no matter what it was, right?
Yeah, and gardening does come with a slower pace of life. Essentially, it's not something that happens hard, fast, and quick, although you can certainly do that. But I think the time that it takes to slow down, to be one with Mother Nature, hands in the dirt, watering, nurturing, watching something thrive, is a really beautiful space to be in. So I think there's a lot of people that I've spoken to on the shop floor, or whether it's patients in clinic, is just the slowness of it. I do miss it a little bit because now we're next level. We're so busy. So I guess from moving forward, I started working in a clinic, just patient care, starting on the phones, helping people with their scripts, assisting doctor, and obviously having a previous knowledge base around cannabis from a cultural legacy point of view. We have such fantastic specialists and doctors and teams. So it's not even just the prescribers, it's our manager, it's our help desk, it's our receptionists, it's all the people that make our clinic run, to be able to kind of empower them with bits of knowledge and education that doesn't necessarily come from an MSL or CMI document, whatever it may be. And was able to kind of, I feel like I'm sometimes the patient's best friend that can kind of ask the questions that they feel silly, like asking a doctor, or they might not want to bother doctor for their time and they've just got this question about this product, or my friend around the road said this, what do you think? And yeah, generally hearing anecdotally, we have thousands of patients in clinic, and to be able to hear from them on a daily basis and speak with hundreds of people a week, oh, I feel like I'm doing my good deed for the day, because we really have some great outcomes. And we are a very high patient care clinic. So probably a little bit different to maybe the standard GP walking off the street. I want to access medicinal cannabis. For the most part, we have some really sick people with some pretty serious diagnoses that need help, and carers and their treating team and families around them. So jumping into that opened my eyes to a completely different side of cannabis. Loving the plant, I would immerse myself 24/7 in it. So whether it's the legacy side or the medical side, but I genuinely love the doctors. For us here in New South Wales, nurses can't prescribe, but I know across Australia there are some really great prescribers, so nurses, specialists, GPs, that are really doing the right thing. And I love working alongside them and doing our due diligence for the patients. So yeah, that also exposed me to being able to sit in meetings with different cannabis companies and chat about different products and administrations and what I think would help fit alongside my team, having a bit of a think tank, and being able to attend things like UIC conference last year was just, I was like a kid in a candy store. I loved it. Being able to sit in with the cultivators, but then also the nurses and doctors and the science side of things, I just love, because from a growing perspective, the science is what is driving our cultivators right now, and we know so much. So yeah, it's certainly been a bit of a tidal wave ride, and I'm a bit all over the place as far as the fingers in the pies, but love it. Absolutely love it.
I was going to say, I don't even know where to start or where to start to ask questions or anything, because I feel like you do. You've got your fingers in a little bit of everything, but I love it that, we kind of
Yeah.
come from a similar background in the sense that we got exposed to it. Um, I didn't come from a police family, but I came from a medical
Mm.
family that was, I guess, pro pharmaceutical and not pro
Yep.
plant, if you will. Um,
Yep.
and then, yeah, getting exposed at a young age and being like, well, maybe that's not necessarily what's going on here. And then
Yeah.
forming, your kind of your own opinion about it, and then seeking more knowledge about it, and then realizing as you seek that knowledge and you talk to more
Mm.
and more people, you're just kind of like, whoa, this plant's kind of fascinating. And I didn't know it could do that. And it can do this and it can do that. And then on some level, like what you're saying, it's a calling you all of a sudden. You're like, no,
Yeah.
I feel like I should share this knowledge, and I should advocate for it more, and I should talk to more people about it. Um, I guess, how do you see the relationship between like the green market and then the legal cannabis market? Like, how do you see those two? I'm going to call them both industries. How do you see those
Yeah,
industries
definitely.
like evolving together?
Yes, and I love that you called it green market, because I also call it green or slash legacy. There is a difference between a criminal black market, a green market, and a legal market for
A hundred
sure.
percent, 100%.
Yeah, we're definitely here for the green market. So I think it's interesting that it's it's a mixture for sure. I know that there's people on the legacy side, and this is where sometimes anti-pharmaceutical or anti-medicine or anti-authoritarian notions can come through for sure. Like, you won't tell me what I can and can't do. I'm going to do this anyway. And to a degree, growing your own is a bit of a statement. It is a bit of a pushback on what I believe to be, horrible prohibition laws that need to change anyway. But I find that we have a cohort of those that they're going to do it anyway. They don't care. It's for them, their family, a sick one. So there's that side of it. Then there's also a part of the green market that really would love to have the freedom and come out from under the shadows to be able to cultivate and work with this plant. I myself feel that way. Whatever gets me to hands in the dirt in the garden, or in my case, I do love it indoor grow. So hands in the cocoa with, so maybe not dirt, but love. That's what I mean. Respect all types of grows. There's so many out there, but I do find that there is, and same, I'm going to flip this on the license side of things. I know that there's companies out there, I've spoken with them, that do push forward to be like, all right, we do need an adult use market. And we do think it's okay that people are allowed to cultivate like 2 to 4 of their own plants. That's all I think our first stage needs to be if legislation moves forward. And that might be another thing we chat about, because I have my own ideas about what I think would be a sensible and appropriate first step. And then I do think that there are cannabis companies. So I'm going to separate cannabis companies and doctors as well on the light medical side, because that is a different viewpoint as well. But I do think there are some cannabis companies out there that might see, what's happening in America at the moment is a bit of a saturation. The prices of flower and product is going down drastically. And I get it. There's big money in the licensed cultivators that have been here from 2016 and onwards. So they don't want to lose out on that. And I appreciate, being a businesswoman myself, that, your P&L sheet, your expenses, your retention of customers, that's really important. So I can see where that can scare them. And I know there's a few companies out there that are vocal about not wanting legalization to go forward. And they put the case forward that, oh, well, homegrown is either subpar, they can't do it as well, or it's dangerous because of mold and microbials. And I very respectfully push back on that, because I know there's enough license and, GMP certified products that are subpar and may not be hitting the mark. So it's kind of like there's a few different cohorts in both sides. And then generally the doctors, I'm sure that there's doctors out there definitely that don't want to see home grow. And I can kind of understand that as well, because being in store and trying to educate and empower people about their end product and how to utilize it safely, make sure you know what's in there. And that comes down to medicine and food. I don't just have that strictly on cannabis, but I think that it causes another world of problems. I can see that for some doctors going, oh, well, you had your friend's flower from around the corner and now you got pneumonia and you probably haven't washed your bong out for a week. And like, I can see that. I get that. But I don't think for the small part that may happen to, we should blanket it, because there are certainly doctors out there, and I've also spoken with them, because in private they feel comfortable to reach out and be like, I agree with you. I don't think GPs should be clogged up prescribing flower for the med rec patient. We'll see that change in the future for sure, but I do think there will be a tipping point for our GPs where they're under the pressure at the best of times. And if profit isn't what is driving you in genuine care, I can see how that's really difficult at the moment for our prescribers. So I have a real soft spot for the amazing doctors out there doing the right thing, trying to help their patients, empower them with knowledge, have a team, someone like myself, that I always feel like I have hit a goal when I can get someone off a bong and onto a Mighty Medic. I'm like, yes. And
Me
they
too.
take it
Me
on
too.
board. Yeah, it's amazing. And there's so many methodologies to utilize, but I think for the most part, the GPs, the good ones, are doing the best that they can. We need some more clinical trials. I get that. So from the medicine side of use, what I mean, I understand from their point of view, there needs to be more double-blind placebo clinical trials. I get it. Anecdotal clinical evidence is just not enough. And I understand why some companies don't want adult use or legalization to happen until these trials come through. I think it could probably both happen in symbiosis. We could still be doing trials and maybe allow the adults who is responsible to grow their own 2 to 4 and find a beautiful kush that they're just obsessed with, or a color palette like a beautiful grape or a purple, and do that because they're a green thumb, but also still utilize the best care from their health providers. Yeah.
I gotta be honest. Even if I could grow phenomenal
Yeah.
cannabis at home, I would
It's
still
hard.
purchase it. I would still purchase it, right? No,
Definitely.
no matter how. I mean, obviously, I would think that I'm growing the best stuff ever because I'm the
Yeah.
one growing it, and I'd be bragging to everybody, this is mine.
We're
It's
proud of what you've
amazing.
achieved. We're only as good as
Exactly.
our next grow. Yeah.
Exactly. And, maybe I'd show you pictures, maybe I wouldn't. Point is at the end, you'd be like, yeah, that's some sticky icky. It's great, right? But yeah, it doesn't matter. Even if I was growing at home, I would still be going to the, like, if we're talking
Yeah.
adult use, I'd still be going to the store to buy some, right? Because there's
Yeah.
still, you can't grow everything. You
And
can't.
that is exactly what I speak with patients about, doctors, pharmacists, is that don't be too scared of it. Don't think everyone's going to drop off. Yeah, you might see flower prescribing go down for sure, but to create a CBD isolate, like there's no way your average hobby gardener has a CO2 extraction machine. Like it just doesn't happen. And to have good quality, efficacious medicine, like to have a blended oil. Like I remember when I first got on to medicinal cannabis all those years back, and straight away I knew I'd seen what THC oil can do, gummies, brownies, flour, whatever it was, but I wanted a one-to-one balance so bad. And the doctor was like, wow, like you know exactly what you want. She also added some CBD in there, which I was so thankful for because I was so nonchalant. I'm like, oh, I don't need CBD, especially not an isolate, right? I'd like something full spectrum. But didn't that give me a knowledge bomb that was dropped on me? CBD now is just on the daily, love it. But the balanced oil, and I was like, there's no way that I could cultivate and grow enough to one, be my 1 to 2 grams a day that I inhale, be able to be extracted and put into oil so that I could have a oil for the evening and then have a CBD. And then I don't know how to make it into a wafer or a pessary or a inhalation, puffer style. Like there's just no way. So I think that once we can maybe shake the conservative thoughts that are still kind of speckled throughout, and realize that it won't be the end of the world. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens with Germany. I do like what's going on over there. So we will wait and see.
I gotta agree with you 100%. Like, again, in the 90s and being in Texas and dealing with brickweed,
Yeah.
who the hell are you? Hi,
Yeah.
excuse me. I'd like to purchase some CBD flower. Do you have any, please?
Yeah.
Like, who?
Never.
No, like, no, you crazy. Like,
Yeah.
even with the amazing hookup that I had in Vancouver and looking back on the amazingness that I was enjoying in the early 2000s there, again, still nobody had CBD flower. That wasn't even an
Um,
option. And then for me, like all through college, university, I remember like I went through a period where I was like the queen of making edibles for everybody because I was on
you're
this
like the
mission.
go-to.
Yeah, but I was like
Yeah.
on this mission, and this is probably a horrible thing to admit, but I was in my 20s, and so this was more than 20 years ago, right? Like I was on a mission to get edible fucked up, right? And all my friends were like giggling and laughing and having the best time ever, and I was sitting with the pan, and I'm like eating the pan, and I'm thinking just a little more, just a little. I'll catch up, and I just
Yeah.
couldn't get an edible high, and then nano emulsions, such a
Amazing.
game changer for me. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say that that's such a game changer for me that all of a sudden I was like, oh, oh, this is this is what it feels like when you get an ingestible edible high. This is what oil should be. And then all of a sudden being able to
Mm-hmm.
find a CBD one that again, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but I make my own gummies with. And now that I've like dialed in the process, it's like happy days. I take my gummies like 3 times a day. I'm like, boop, boop, boop. And it's so
Yeah.
consistent. It doesn't matter what I've eaten, what fat I pair. Do I have it with
Yeah.
avocado milkshake? Like none of that shit matters. I
Yeah.
have my one CBD gummy and it's happy days. God bless Nano
Yeah.
Emulsion. And that's coming from the medical side. And I would have never been exposed to that without it. And
No, never.
just like you, now I'm like, oh no, CBD, you need that in your life. You really, really
Oh,
do. It's amazing
yeah.
stuff now that I'm like, no, it works. It works 100% it works. Right.
Yeah,
And yeah,
definitely. And it's
yeah.
funny because I take a CBD isolate. I used to take a broad spectrum. And look, I get that a full spectrum, broad spectrum, superior. But there are a lot of people out there that are concerned about driving. And as we know, as of yesterday, Victoria have made some moves, which I am so happy about. Jeremy Buckingham, if you listen to this, I want to chat with you. I want to know what's going on in New South Wales, because what a fantastic initiative that patients have the hope that the government is listening. We'll see what happens in October. But generally, before this podcast, 50 milligrams, half a mil of CBD 100. I believe early morning after my coffee and my avocado on toast, it's CBD, magnesium, echinacea, day in, day out. I use it as needed. I believe it is just such a hidden tool. And I truly believe that people have had a lackluster experience with it on the unregulated market, because when you understand the intricacies of how to extract CBD and what's needed and why it also comes with the price point it does, in comparison to some other oils and whatnot. Yeah, it's really like you either deal with some top tier high quality or don't deal at all with it, because you will have, I get people all the time, they're like, oh, I tried it from some online store and like I took it for a month, it didn't really work. And I'm like, well, what did you have? And they're like, oh, it was XYZ milligrams, but they have no idea really what was in there. It's turned them off them listening to doctor about perhaps being serious about adding CBD into their medication regime. And I was one of them. I had to be one that was like, all right, I'll try it. I'll tell you if it works or not. And then I remember doctor being like, isn't it fantastic? And I said, yeah, actually, for an isolate, I'm so amazed at what this can do. So I'm a gal that believes it makes the flames less hot. It's not curing anything. It's just making, for me and for most of the patients, life, pain, and diagnosis tolerable. The flames less hot.
I like to say it gives me room to breathe.
Yeah, that's
That's
it.
gives me room to breathe. That's
Yeah.
and I say it all the time. THC is great. I love it, of course, but I would love to see more CBG. I'd love
Oh,
to see
yeah.
more CBN out on the
Yeah.
market. I don't know if I've actually ever said it on the podcast, but I know I've said it like in conversation with people. I would love to see CBD and CBG morning nano gummies and then CBD, CBN evening nano gummies. I'm like, I don't even need the THC. Just give me some minor cannabinoids and
Yeah.
I'd love it. So, if anybody's listening out there, just saying, throwing it out there.
Well, I think you might be pleased to know that there is a CBD and CBN gummy hopefully coming to market in a few months. I just had a quick meeting with a brand and company earlier this week. And I think CBN and CBG, from what I can remember the most part, so I got very excited about that, especially because we have a lot of patients having a sleep specialist in our clinic. Man, those minor cannabinoids and gummy forms. Here in New South Wales, we don't compound. So I know there's a couple to market. But yeah, it's amazing to see. I believe I saw a script come through for a vape cart with CBG in it as well. So yeah, it's amazing. And because we work with an affiliate pharmacy as well, I get to see hundreds of scripts from all types of doctors all over Australia. So I really get to see like kind of like the trends that are moving along. Of I can tell when the doctors have been doing their research and they're deep diving, and I'm like, yes, go doc, you found this product. That's amazing. So
Oh, so I was about to say, do you like what kind of trends are you starting to see slowly
mm,
starting to emerge?
yeah. So look, for us in clinic, so for our in-house prescribers, look, definitely we have a cohort of patients that have a really high need for different types of administrations throughout all hours of the day. So a mixture of definitely CBD isolates, or at least a CBD with a broad spectrum. standard. Like I would say 80% of our patients take the CBD. Then definitely a balanced oil, so like a 10-10 or a 10-15. The what I love and what I'm really passionate about, and I believe I may have chatted with a few people in our similar circle about lower THC cultivars that are absolutely fantastic. So I like to see this is what's funny. It's like, are you the medrec patient, a bit connoisseurial, that you appreciate that there can be 16, 18, 20%, whatever indica sativa hybrid that can be appropriate for your relief versus like a 30% or a 25. So I'm loving to see that switch happen, especially in a moment where obviously the TGA are reporting, exorbitant numbers of SASB, high THC approvals. And yeah, it is nice to know, okay, well, there is a bit of a change in the trend. I do believe for the most part, it's probably driven by the doctors. And like in the end, the doctors are writing the scripts. And if you've got a good doctor and he's finding appropriate products for you, maybe putting you on 3 different products that are, 25, 26 and up, doctor's call for sure. But having that pressure that I know comes from the patients, and that's in pharmacy and GPs. And there was a survey done over the last 2 years where the GPs here in Australia are saying, like, for a most part, I believe it was around maybe 20 to 30%, and I'd have to look at the figures again, but are saying they're getting this kind of, not forcing them to, but like this pressure from their patients to be like, well, hey, like you've done 1 or 2 products, but they're not right for me. And then I want to try these other things. And they're hesitant to go up in THC percentage. They see what's happening in the landscape of the medicinal realm. And they're like, oh, I want to jump into that boat. So yeah, I can definitely see the cannabis companies that are pushing the higher THC percentages, and it's almost like the chicken and the egg. Is it the doctor, is it the company, or is it both in symbiosis and the patient? And there really is this relationship. But definitely gummies. Like, I don't know about you guys up in Queensland and down in Victoria where compounding can happen. For the most part, I believe gummies is kind of common to be prescribed. Would that be right in saying from your knowledge?
Um, I they're getting more and more common,
Okay.
right? They really, really
Yeah.
are. Definitely are some compounding pharmacies that do them. I know that Heyday has their own line, but then you also have to get that from a
From them.
compounding compound Canna compounding there in South Australia. You
Yep.
have to go through, right? So
Yep.
um I do know, like I said, there are definitely some on the market. You can get
Mm.
scripts for them. They are definitely getting more and more popular. It's it's tough, right? I feel like their price point is very high, though, for what they
Yeah.
are, to be honest. I mean, it's literally like a bunch of
Yeah.
sugar mixed in with a couple other things,
Yeah.
right?
And as you know, you've made your own, like you
I
said,
have, I
and
can
I've
admit I do.
for me, that was my husband actually a few years ago. He was the one that wanted to dabble in that. I certainly a bit of a butter gal and a baker, but he kind of delved down that, and I get it, to find the stability and to have consistency of the spread of medication through each gummy. Like, it's really hard, and this is where I go, look, when the day comes and we can all play for ourselves and we don't need to worry about it, that's great. But for right now, this is one of those things that I'm like, please don't buy it off the internet from some random seller that you have no idea where it's from. Please go and speak with your doctor, because if you're going to actually invest money in that, at least let it be what it says it is, and
Yeah,
that it's
full.
stable. It's
Yeah.
not molded because it's got moisture still inside, or it's not melting because it hasn't been temperature freighted properly. Yeah, I hope to see more in Australia, and from extracts as well. I'm really intrigued in the solventless extracts being used in a kind of ingestible and edible form.
I think that's our next new thing that we'll start seeing more and
Oh,
more,
for
right?
sure.
Hitting the market more and more of that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm for it. I'm against it. I don't know. I'm a flower girl at heart.
Yeah.
I
So am
feel
I.
I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect there when you start getting into concentrates. I don't know. Yeah, you
It's a
lose a
different look.
little bit of the. I don't want to say authenticity. Maybe that's not the word I want to use to describe it, but
Yeah.
you lose a little bit of the well, obviously you lose the plant because you're not looking at the plant anymore. You're looking at an
Well,
extract. But you know what I'm trying to say? You lose a little bit of it. And it's taken me a long time to get used to not rolling joints because for me, the whole act of
mm,
rolling a joint was there was something very therapeutic
oh, it's
about taking,
ritualistic almost.
yeah, like breaking it up, looking at it, smelling it, having it stick to your fingers, putting it in, like all that whole process of, till you get to the point where you've licked and you're looking at your finished product before you actually
Look at my
light it.
beauty. I've just rolled.
Yeah, you're like, oh, or God, it looks like a pregnant batter. Whatever. It's
Back
your
to,
moment. It's that
yeah. And
moment, and you lose that with concentrates, right? My
yeah,
first experience with them, with the whole dab ring, and and banger, and I remember standing there with some friends in a kitchen there in Vancouver, and they're loving it, and I'm having this moment of, wow, I feel like a druggie right now. Never in my life have I ever felt like a druggie consuming cannabis, but here as I stand with my friends with the
yeah, I
blowtorch,
feel you on that.
heating this piece of glass on with something at the end of a metal, and we're gonna drop it, and it's gotta be timed and this and and I'm like, well, like, oh, yeah, I never felt like a druggie like I did in that moment. And so maybe like we were saying, you had a bad experience with CBD, and that's why you're like, screw it, I'm never going back. And so maybe that was my defining concentrate moment. I was like,
For
it's not for
sure.
me,
Maybe
right?
you need to try if you ever delve down that road again, something like a puff code, like where or a Dr. Dabber, like there's very user-friendly rigs out at the moment. And honestly, we used to sell a whole bunch of them here in the store a few years ago. And God love the dabbing and concentrate community, but they would want to sit here and chat for an hour about this banger or this rig, and God love them. There's so many nuances and intricacies to it that I'm thankful for things such as a Puffco, because in what I see trending, and this is internationally, so I follow the European markets as much as I follow the American markets. Um, Hash is a huge up and coming trend, and concentrates, and yeah, I'm here for it because I have had great experiences. I certainly have had the cough of death when it comes to a dab rig. It's completely different style of inhalation. Um,
Yes. Oh my
kind of like
God.
what I
Yes. It's
tell patients with
very
vape
different.
carts. It's different to
It's
like
very
switching from your
different.
Mighty Medic to going to a vape cart as it is with the concentrates. But nothing like tasting pure peaches. Or
Yeah.
like, so when you can really get those flavonoids that haven't been touched, they're just pulled from the plant material. It is such a beautiful experience. But I'm also here for not building my tolerance up, because you need to be mindful. I have tea breaks, certainly, because yeah, there's just so many different ways, but I'm here for it.
I was gonna
I
say
love it.
it's definitely a double-edged sword for sure, right? Because
Mm,
100% I will agree with you. Um, there is no flavor like a dab flavor,
yeah.
like
Or
you're
fresh cannabis flower.
just
Yeah.
wow. The flavor, like it's very, all of a sudden you're like, this is very complex, and I can taste this and I can taste that, and where did this come
Yeah.
from? And
Yeah.
but the flip to that, the double-edged sword is
Mm,
it absolutely does mess with your tolerance.
yeah.
And um that is the concentrates is the closest I've ever come to greening out in my life.
Mm, yeah. Word of warning with it for sure.
I look back on it and I laugh at myself now because I'm like, obviously I'm like taking hits off of it like I'm pulling off a blunt or something. I'm like
Yeah.
just pulling and pulling, and I'm like, this is so flavorful and I need more. And and I should have known better. Or
Mm,
fuck it, one of my friends around me should have been like, yo girl, slow your roll, this is you're gonna be in over
yeah.
your head. Because about 20 minutes later I remember looking around being like, I need to sit down, like I need to sit down. And they all went for
Yeah.
a Chinese food run, but I was like, no, I gotta sit. And they're like, no, come with it. And I'm like, I'll be cool. They're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all right.
Mm,
I need some water and I just need to sit. And Straight
Yeah,
up, I have no idea how long they were gone, but when they came back, I was still sitting in the same chair, hadn't moved.
definitely.
And I was like, that was the most intense cannabis high I've ever had in
Mm,
my whole entire life. Oh my God, this is the lights going on. This is why I'm like, I don't like concentrates. I
yeah,
got in
definitely.
over my head. I did not follow my own cardinal rule, which is you can always do more, but you can
You
never
can,
do less.
definitely,
Ah.
definitely. And look, to be fair, in clinic, like obviously the legacy that have community that have been using cannabis for decades, right, with or without a doctor, and it's almost like we've been able to walk the walk. We know what we can handle. We know that if it's a little bit too much, that we're going to be okay. We'll come back down. We'll look at it a different way next time, maybe not as much. But I do hear a lot from our patients that I speak with that they usually have a really bad experience with some PGR crap flower off the street 20 years ago. They fell asleep, they vomited because they had alcohol in their system, or they had an edible and it's almost like they were tripping. And to be fair, I am one to say that if you have too much edibles, it is probably one of the closest things to a psychedelic trip for
It is.
sure.
Oh my God. And if you're not ready
Yeah,
for it,
it
because
can
it's
be
not the same as a
confronting.
flower high. It's not. And it
No.
can be very confronting if you're not ready for it. Because
Yeah.
again,
Everyone
for
metabolizes different as well. What's in your gut, like what you've had
mm-hmm,
previous, where you're
mm-hmm,
at mentally, emotionally, physically, like
yeah.
it all matters. And I think this is where the holistic aspect that I can tell that you have as well. It's like we really need to, yeah, this is safe, but it isn't for everyone. And not everyone has a great experience with it. So I think if we can do our best to, which is hard to educate in this current climate of marketing and advertising in this industry, which is a disservice, I believe, to the medical community, but in general, just really giving a safe space and encouragement to patients to dip their toe back in and be like, you know what? Let's start with like a CBD 20, THC 5. Let's just start there and tell me your experience, you know? So I think that there's so many options out there that for those of us that cannabis is life, we know this. This is common knowledge. We speak about this day in, day out. But for the general patient and punter on the street, they don't know that there's all these different strengths and balances and administrations. So there really is still a lot of education. I know we all harp on about education, but there is a lot that's still to be done. And I feel for those prescribing in those consults because really it's hard to give all the information to be able to be backing them up. Doctors can't just jump on a phone when a patient has an issue all the time. That's why a good nurse care team, a therapist team, a treating care team can really be beneficial to support that patient because if they have some paranoia and some worry, sorry, as we know, if you feel a bit anxious about something and then you take it and that anxiety can kind of compound, it's not the best experience. So we really do try and empower those that have had a bad experience to realize we can take this slow. Slow, go slow, start low is the motto.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, for sure. Like I said, as I was just reliving that story with you, I was like, damn,
Mm,
I didn't follow my own advice, which is you can always take more, but you can never take less, right?
yeah.
It's like with
Yeah.
anything in life, right? Anything in life. Slight
Definitely.
change of gears, just slight.
Let's do
How
it.
do you navigate this being a mom, right? How first I have a
Yeah.
teenager and you've
Okay.
got two girls. Are they young?
Yeah.
Are they teenagers? How do you navigate? How do you
No.
have these conversations? Or are they just too young, I guess, to have the conversation yet?
No, they're not too young. Mine are 7 and 6. So I have two back-to-back babies. um, I think now more than ever, as they're kindergarten and year one, right? So I've pretty much, for the most part, they know we are into gardening. They just don't have any discrimination about what type of plants people garden because that's what I mean. We deal with the beautiful local bromeliad society and we've got the agricultural region behind us. So there's a lot of big kind of ag behind us as well. And then you have the hobbyists. So they are just, it's almost like they don't know any different. And when I speak about cannabis or medicine, that they know, oh, that's mum's. When I'm speaking about my Mighty Medic, let's say, if I have to duck off, let's say I'm just unfortunately about to be diagnosed with some endometriosis, which I knew was coming my way. Lucky I know the plant, so I know how to manage it when I have to. Surgery is not always my biggest option, but I do have to go down that route. So they understand that, once a month or once every 2 months, that if mum needs to grab her vaporizer in the morning, find a quiet space out in the balcony to reduce my pain and inflammation, that's mum having a medication. So for the most part, I'm definitely about knowledge being power. They're not in accessible reach, so we have quite a beautiful shelf and a lockbox as well with all of our prescribed medications in there for James and I. And we are strictly only prescribed medicinal cannabis, so I don't have other medications. I don't have other serious diagnoses that I have to deal with that, let's say, might impact them on a daily basis, that might raise more questions. But essentially right now, I'm really new to the mum world, as far as, even though they're 6 and 7, I'm only just getting into primary school life, right? Where I'm like, I've got to be friends with random adults that I don't know and they don't know me. And even though where our stories and where our family is, we've been here. Yes, I've traveled and gone around the world and bits and pieces, but this is my local community. I grew up here. I went to the same primary school as my kids. So I have the support of my family. And even before my kids started school, I'm like, Mom, what if I'm judged? And for me, I'm such an advocate, right? I'm out there, I'll do videos, I'll really kind of die on the sword of the plant, to be honest. And it was funny that I had this pang of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be judged maybe. What if my kids are judged because of my choices? And the beautiful parents that I have, they're like, you and James, but you as the mum, you are such an eloquent, successful, fair, beautiful friend, daughter, all across the board. Be your authentic self and your tribe will find you. Now I'll fast forward 2 years, kindy and year one. Yeah, I've certainly found the people that are like, wow, how good is that? Like, they obviously can tell the passion I have. We have a pediatric neurologist in clinic, so I genuinely love speaking with the families, carers, and kids. So being a mother myself, I can connect with other parents out there and know that this isn't this big scary like you're a drug taker style. This is like, no, me bettering my wellness to be the best version of myself I can. And yeah, like just last weekend, I had a year one mum's dinner where we all went out for a few drinks. And look, I do consume alcohol. I do love white and red wine. I'll have a tequila if I'm going out with the girls for a weekend. But for the most part, I carry my Mighty Medic with me everywhere. And I'm mindful that, my Louis Vuitton bag, it kind of smells once heat up a dosing cap. And I kind of said, well, ladies, like, this is my relaxation. This is how I like to live my life. And yeah, they were fantastic. They're like, oh, go for it. I used to smoke bongs and couldn't handle it back in the day. So everyone has their story. I find the ones that have had really negative experiences, or they've seen negative experiences with their own family or friends, that's a bit harder for them to maybe look at me a bit differently. You can have your own preconceived notions and judgments, but I'm kind of like, nah, you'll find out how I am and that I'm a good person, and I'm just Jess, and I'm here for just everyone to live their best lives, to be honest. And if you ain't hurting no one, we all go through seasons in life, so do your thing. So yeah, it's tricky, but I also have my beautiful group of girlfriends. Like, some of us don't have kids yet. Like, I'm only 32, 33. Sorry, I'm missing a few years in there with all the kiddies happening. But my girlfriends, for the most part, I can count them on both my hands, and I've got 30 years, almost 20 to 30 years with them. So I feel safe in my core people. They know who I am, and they know how I am as a mother. And cannabis just absolutely betters motherhood for me personally. I know you could probably vouch for that as well.
A
Yeah,
hundred
it's
percent.
amazing.
A hundred
Yeah, I'm
percent.
definitely a canna mum advocate.
A hundred
I get all
percent.
the
Like
ladies on the CBD.
100%.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I think for me the big struggle was that moment when I was like, "Oh my God, is my kid gonna get judged for something that I'm doing?"
yeah.
Like, if you want to judge
If you
me,
do
that's
anything for
fine.
them, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, if you want to judge me for my choices, for what I do, if you're not okay with it, well, that's your prerogative to judge me.
yeah,
But the fallout of, me being a medicinal cannabis consumer patient and then you judging my child for it,
yeah,
I guess is something that I don't wanna say I actively grapple with it because I don't. It's not
yeah,
like a daily thing, but I do worry about it, and so I
yeah,
do have very candid conversations with my kid about, this is why I consume and this is why I do it,
yeah,
and, he's almost 15 now, so the conversations are very different than
yeah,
conversations you would be having, um,
definitely.
but I think he definitely realizes mom's a happier person when she
Mm,
medicates, right?
yep,
It's for his whole life, for as long as he can remember, mom's had migraines. So,
mm. And
from
that's
very
tough to deal
yeah,
with.
from very little, he would have to like I'd have to tell him straight up, look, I'm starting to get a headache. I have to go lie down. Blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah. Let's get you a snack. And, I'm going to admit it. This was before we really had like iPads and shit. I would throw on The Lion King and be like, okay, look, here's a snack. Here's this, hang out with
yeah,
the dog. I've got to go lie down. And I had
yeah,
to, bedroom lights closed, like the whole
yeah,
thing. And so he's had to deal with that at a very, and again, we're talking
mm,
2, 3 years old, having to deal with mom
yeah,
having this conversation. So I am now, beginning of October of this year, if I can make it, knock on wood, I will be
mm.
2 years migraine free. And
Amazing.
I completely contribute that to medicinal cannabis.
Mm,
And so he's seen this change in me in the last 2 years. So for him, he's like, wow,
mm.
mom's got her quality of life back. Mom is happier. Mom
Yep,
is back to being mom when she's
yep,
not sick kind of thing. And so
yep.
like I said, I have these moments where I'm like, should I be so vocal? Should I this? Should I
Mhm.
that? But then,
I feel you.
it is what it is. And if
Yeah,
more of us don't talk about it, then we never break the stigma. We
yeah,
never break the negative
yeah. It is. It's the judgment, it's the stigma, it's the association with bong heads and just you're feeding your kids crap food and no one has a great quality of life or yeah, it just can really it can really change the way that you want to advocate, especially for people like yourself and I, who are so open and honest about it, to have this pang of like, oh, should I speak about it with this person? How is this going to land with them? Can be really difficult. You kind of got to pick your people. But for the most part, and I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse for me, but I'm kind of like, I am who I am. And I think that that's what I mean. Those that know me, know our family, know our children, know, that's what I mean. We're very vocal about what we do. And we do really do believe it's our passion and our calling to kind of help people through the plant. And yeah, I'm kind of like, you can either take it or you leave it because I ain't got no time to be pretending with no one. So I'm here for all of us to just literally better our lives, especially as mothers, because it's really difficult to maintain. Like, there's no days off, right? You can have be having a migraine and your son's wanting you and the attention, and they don't quite get it, especially at 2 and 3. Probably now it's a bit different. He'd be like, yeah, okay, mum, although you're 2 years migraine free, so that's amazing. But yeah, it can be really difficult. For me, it's the days when I ovulate that I get the most pain, where I'm bedridden. It's only for 24 hours. But my kids know they'll go and get my little capsule. The daddy will be like, give this to her, and here's her heat pack. And, James will go and get me my Mighty Medic, and I'll just have a dosing cap. There's nothing like bringing endo pain down in a matter of minutes with a quick little dry herb vape. So I think for the most part, the oils, they don't see that happening. But I know if I've got a particularly stressful day or a long car drive, let's say with them, yeah, CBD every day of the week. And even this morning, I was just at Kmart grabbing a few things. And, when you're kind of like, I was kid free. So I'm just like shopping, I'm fine. And I could hear another mother doing what we do, and none of us are perfect, being like, don't touch that, like, stop asking me these questions. And I could feel her cortisol rising, right? And at that moment, I was like, God, I'm glad I take my CBD in the morning, because even though those things can still happen, and I'm not perfect, and sometimes breathing through it, and kids can still, sorry about the swearing, but they can piss you off. You're like, oh my God, you little devils.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
The
Like,
most, mm,
oh, nothing tests your patience like a kid, right?
yeah.
It's unreal. And sometimes you do, you just have to pause and take the breath,
Yeah, regulate
right?
yourself before
Yeah.
anyone else can learn regulation around you. But I remember thinking, oh gosh, I'd love to go and chat to you about CBD. Like, I'm that person. I'm kind of like the my big fat Greek wedding, when the dad has Windex and Windex fixes everything. I'm like that with CBD or cannabis. I'm like, there's a strength for you. There's a modality for you, for everyone. So
It's so funny that you say that, because like my internal monologue sometimes when I'm out and about and I like
yeah,
see a scene like what you're describing, I'm like,
yeah,
oh girl, you need some CBD in your life. Like it is that internal monologue. I'm like, and sometimes I do, I'm like,
100%.
man, I wish that I could just like go up to you and be like,
Yeah,
call this clinic,
yeah,
go talk to
yeah.
this
He's
doctor.
like a sly hooker.
Yeah,
Here's a
but
credit
like
card.
here's real on the down low, right? Take a
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like I'm 45, so I'm knocking on perimenopause.
Yeah.
And or like some of the like in these groups now talking with other women perimenopause.
Yeah.
And sometimes I really just want to like scream from the top of my lungs. I'm like, no, but for reals, a little bit of
Yeah.
like that agitation that you're talking about, that because I've started to experience it now, the what is it
Mm.
called? Peri rage or perimental rage,
Yes.
where like
Yep.
I'm literally just sitting there eating yogurt in my own little world, happy as days. And I look over at my teenage son and he's like crunching granola. And I want to like take my
Snuff the
spoon
tip
and
you off.
stab him in the eyeballs. And I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is wrong with me? I'm like, take a breath.
Yeah.
It's just yogurt. It's just granola. And it does, it
Yeah.
comes out of nowhere. And then I'm like, today I need to up my CBD. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a rough day. But I want to say that in some of these like groups I'm in Facebook. I'm like, oh no, you
Yeah.
need some CBD. And they're like, oh, I'm this and I'm that and da 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 da. And
Yep.
I wish we could just have free conversations around cannabis and what it can do
Mm.
for us, and
Yeah.
what it can
Yeah, I
do for other
do.
people. And again, it's not all about
Yeah.
THC. There are other cannabinoids out there. There are other things out there. Like, and
Yep.
again, like we've had a discussion already, it's not all about inhalation. There are, you can do
Mm.
gummies and you can do oils and,
Yep.
just, oh man, there's so many different
Yeah.
options out there. And I wish we could have these
Yeah.
conversations more freely.
Yeah. Agreed. I think it's patients in general, but for me, and maybe this is just my own bias, I feel like women are the ones that miss out, because cannabis use has been so male dominated over the decades. I do know that for me, I'm a bit of an anomaly. Like, I'm a female in a really male dominated industry. So whether that's legacy growing, that's 99% men. We have some fantastic girl growers out there that I love. And most of them are, I'd say, 60 plus, right? So there's some young girls out there, dabbling in it. But for the most part, I'm like, it's really been a boys' club. And I think that I find that the stigma and judgment of women and how we are meant to live our lives, look, mother, wife, all those hats that we wear, Cannabis just doesn't fit in with that, right? In the kind of generalized view of what a woman shouldn't be doing. I'm definitely one to push against that. I believe my mum said, you're born here to kind of, push the narrative. You are doing your job for sure. But yeah, I definitely want women of all ages, because when we understand our hormonal cycles through our different phases of life, I think that when we can tweak that to find the most appropriate products for that time in our life, that's when you have the feminine spirit, you have the female absolutely thriving. So we're on the precipice of it for sure. I'm glad that there are females such as you and I. We've got Kyla, we've got Tegan from Bloomley. Like, there's some really great ladies out there from many walks of life showing this is what it's like to be a cannabis consumer as a woman.
Yeah, we are. We're getting louder. We definitely are getting
Yeah,
louder. And you
yeah,
know what? It is. We're all these women that are productive members of society, all
for
contributing in our
sure.
own way, all breaking the
Yep,
stigma in our own way. And I do. I love being a part of it. I really do. Like, it's great. And you know, we are. We're going to keep having more and more conversations about that. And I feel like this
yep.
is like probably the perfect place to end the podcast right here. I feel like we've covered
Fantastic.
so many fantastic topics. Jessica, if I could ask you to leave us with one tidbit of information, one nugget of knowledge, one call of action, what would it be?
Oh, my call of action would be to don't worry about what everyone else thinks about how you handle your healthcare and your wellness. I think if it works for you, if you have other ideas of what could work for you, advocate for your own wellness and health. Yeah, patient and personal advocation is really important. And if you don't know where you need to go down the route and it's outside of a doctor or GP, there are so many great resources out there, podcasts, blogs, websites that can help you in your journey of advocating for yourself. We've never known so much. Information has never been so widely accessible. So do your due diligence so you can advocate for your own wellness.
I agree with you, Jess, because at the end of the day, you know your body better than anybody
Yeah.
else, right? So if something's not right there, if something's not the way it should be, get
Mm.
loud and advocate for yourself.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that's a wrap for today's episode with Jessica Peros. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review and sharing the podcast with your friends. Your feedback helps the show grow and reach more listeners who might benefit from these conversations. Don't forget to email me your rapid fire questions for a chance at a shout out and an AusCanna sticker pack. Until we meet again, friends, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. And remember, it's easy to be blunt when you're fearless of smoke.